Hello, everyone. Would you like to stand with me, sing a song? We're going to sing Welcome Table. And I don't know if we have slides up there. It's going to be, I'm going to sing at the welcome table. Next one, I'm going to feast on milk and honey. All of us are going to sit together, and then I'm going to sit at the welcome table. I know some of you know this song. Here we go. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey one of these days. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. Gonna feast on milk and honey one of these days. One of these days. All of us are gonna sit together. All of us are gonna sit together one of these days. All of us are gonna sit together. Gonna sit together one of these days. One of these days. And I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Yes, I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Hallelujah. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's really, really good to see you here. We've been working on this for over a year now, so for those of us on the planning committee, we're ecstatic that you're here. And first, before I give announcements, could the planning committee please stand? These are the people that you need to know the look of and thank them over and over. And if you have questions, we have the red shirt badge on front, for those of you who know anything about science fiction. I have a couple of announcements for you before we get going. First, for those of you who are from out of town, if you need a ride or are willing to give a ride, please check in with one of the red shirt team members and we'll help you with that. Your name tag also is your ticket for lunch. This is particularly important tomorrow, which has a public meeting of our keynote speaker, people who have not paid for their lunch. So we are going to be monitoring lunch to make sure you have your ticket. And then the third item is if you have reserved and picked up your t-shirt, but were not provided with a laptop to do the payment, please see a planning team member to make sure that we've actually done that. It has to go through the church's website, unfortunately. It's a little confusing. And then my final announcement is that if you have cell data, if you could use that instead of the church's Wi-Fi, we would greatly appreciate it. The church has limited internet bandwidth, and we really need it for our Zoom attendees. So if you could, we would appreciate it. If you're on a Mexican plan like I am, that's okay to use the Wi-Fi. And then Tom Mosher, who is the president of the board of the church here in Spokane and a member since 1969, he's the parliamentary advisor to the church, and also said, well, he has known Todd since 2011, is going to introduce us to the church. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome from our Board of Trustees. And speaking for the congregation, also welcome you here. Glad to have you and to be your host facility for this first summit. As it was said, I've known Todd since 2011. I was actually in Arizona when he and I first communicated, and that was by email. And I was one who took not the word offense comes to mind, but one of his policies is, as some of you know, Todd, when he came from Louisville to here, came with the condition that he would not perform any marriage ceremonies until he could form marriage ceremonies for everybody. And I'm down there in Arizona, and although my daughter was married at the time, I wrote him an email and said, do you mean that my daughter, who was born in this church, went through our RE program and wanted to get married, that you wouldn't marry her? And that started a little dialogue, which ended up with Todd inviting me when I came back to Washington to sit down and visit. And we spent about an hour and a half together, and I learned an awful lot about Todd, and I have been, ever since then, one of his strongest supporters, and I consider him one of my best friends. So with that mild comment and explanation, let me introduce Reverend Dr. Todd Eklof, as known to all of us as Todd.
Thank you, Todd. Holy mackerel, can you believe it? That's unbelievable. It is crazy. Look at us. We're here on our Zoom, and people from, yeah. And so I think the first thing I wanted to really talk about is who is here. And I know at least Stephen Palmer is here. Should be. We stalled for enough time for him to get back on. But I just want to get some shout outs from the group as to where you might be at. And we'll take turns here so we can hear from our friends who are attending via Zoom. By the way, the live stream's up too, so some folks are live streaming with us. But let's start with the room. Who's from where? Give me a location.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. North Carolina. Yay. Madison, Wisconsin. Where? Hillsboro, Oregon. Port Townsend, Washington. Seattle, Washington. Spokane, yeah, okay. Connecticut. Port Vallarta, I can't say it as well as you. Yes. Edmonton, Alberta. We've got some other folks from Canada, right? All right. Florida, that counts. You're close to being on the other side of the world, but not so far away. What's that? Another California and Port Ludlow. Wow. It takes about as much time to get from Port Ludlow to Seattle as it does from Seattle to Spokane, I think. Yes. Corvallis, Oregon. British Columbia, yes. Yes, there's folks here from British Columbia, right? Just about 5 seats up from you. Yeah. All right. And now let's turn to our friends on Zoom. Where are you guys from? Where are you coming from? Just unmute yourselves and shout it out.
Port Ludlow, Washington.
Port Ludlow.
I'm going to go back and see if they're on.
Todd, North Carolina.
Waterville, Maine.
Chicago, Illinois.
It's all right. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Washington.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. Great. Listen, we're having a little bit of...
Mr. BC, Canada.
All right.
Sheffield, Alabama.
Sheffield, Alabama.
All the way from Spokane.
All right. So more from Spokane, yes. You guys are freezing up just a little bit. Could be a bandwidth thing. So folks, if there's anybody in the building here who's connected to the Wi-Fi, it might be helpful for you to get off as Joyce said. But anyway, it's great to have folks from so many different locations. The Canadians make us an international organization, or from their perspective, the U.S. makes us an international perspective. So we definitely want to be inclusive.
I heard one person from France, Todd.
From France? Ah, yes.
We have
I think that must be John. Wonderful. Great to have you all the way from France. And you'll learn more as our association goes on. But we discovered, firstly, I would say I discovered very early on that the phenomenon we were experiencing in Unitarian Universalism here in the U.S. is also happening in Canada. In fact, I just hear horror stories about what's going on in Canada. I mean, some of the illiberalism and authoritarianism being presented there is equally as bad. But some of the folks that initially supported me were from Canada, including Terry Anderson over here, who contacted me early on. And I realized very early that if we were going to start an association, we needed to include our Canadian brothers and sisters as well, which is why it's the North American Unitarian Association. However, as Terry and Stephen Palmer and others have found out, John, in fact, who joined us from France, it is that this is really happening all over the globe to Unitarians, and we're very quickly becoming an international organization. So that will manifest either as we will create an additional international organization. Thank God we have Bruce Knotts on our side, who's very experienced in that and is helping with that, that NAUA will become part of, or NAUA will shift to being a more international organization. I think that the former is the more likely. But we are representative of people from all over the countries who have shared a similar experience. And the worst part of that has been we have been demonized and dehumanized and silenced and shunned, really. And that's the worst part. Because we just haven't been able to dialogue. That's all we're saying. We're not saying the UUA's or the CUC's ideology has gone bad, and we vehemently disagree, and therefore you're bad people. That's not our shtick. We do disagree with the ideology that they are promoting at this time in some ways. And our only point is, why can't we talk about those differences? That's what we're supposed to be about. We are here today because we've been told that there is forbidden topics and forbidden conversations, and you better shut up or you're out. That's why we're here. We're not here because of an ideological disagreement about race and how we address race. We may disagree with that, but that's not why we're here. We're here because, above all, we believe we should be able to come together despite our differences, love each other, and work together on things that are important. And so NAUA is here to continue our liberal tradition. So, and I'm glad that Joyce Kinnear welcomed the planning team. I would like for the planning team to stand again so I can actually name you. There's a lot of volunteers behind this organization. I'm not going to list everybody today. I would get into trouble, but I think the planning team especially, all I had to do was step out of the way, and they put together a masterful program for us. So thank you all so much. But if you would stand again, of course, Joyce Kinnear and Scott Kinnear. Joyce, who chaired the committee with us. Candace Schmidt and Cindy Fine, who are both on part of our congregation here in Spokane. Thank you all so much. And excellent job with the hotel. Thank you all so much for making that happen. It's a beautiful location, beautiful place. Judy Durham is here. Yeah, yes. And Joanne Kretik, am I saying that, Joanne, correctly? Good. And John Wonderland, of course, is right here. And Terry, I'm going to include Terry Anderson because he's attended at least most of those meetings. And we wouldn't have the technological success or difficulties without Terry Anderson. So as well as some others who are on his team, and John Wonderland included. Thank you. In fact, and speaking of our website team, which really behaves more as our tech team at this point, is Terry Anderson, Bob Simone, and John Wonderland. So let's thank them as well for all of their help making this happen. I want to thank Todd Milne, who is here this morning, helping to navigate us through what is really a storm of an event as far as the length of time and the chaos and confusion. Todd, always appreciate you, your expertise in putting up with us. And Shelley is here too, who's going to be working with us the rest of the weekend, starting tomorrow. So Shelley, thanks for being here and apprenticing with Todd today to make sure everything's set up great. I'm not going to introduce our provisional board members. We'll do that more during our business meeting tomorrow, but I would like everyone who is here who's on our provisional board. So we've been calling it a provisional board and provisional bylaws because we have to start somewhere, right? I mean, basically, I started this organization by finding some people I trusted and said, hey, you guys want to help me start this? And they said, yeah. And then as we progressed and had to become formal and register with the state and get our articles of incorporation, we had to have bylaws. Well, how do we have bylaws for a member organization where no members have voted on the bylaws? Or the board, for that matter. So we said, well, let's call everything provisional until we can have our first meeting, and then we'll shift over to bylaws and officers that have been elected. So these folks have worked incredibly hard. And I want to include Jay Kiskell. He was on the board during the early days of it. There's Jay. So if everybody who's been on our provisional board working on behalf of this organization, Frank's here. I'm glad he's here to stand up too. Would you please stand or raise your hands? And wonderful. And as I said, we'll get to introduce you guys more tomorrow, but I want to be sure and thank you for the vision and for helping to make this happen as quickly as we possibly could. And then I thank Tom for the wonderful introduction, but I would also be incredibly remiss. I would not even be here if it weren't for the good folks, the members here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, whom I love very deeply. And appreciate you guys keeping me on despite my apparently unpopular stances at times. And for opening this incredible space for this historic moment of our first NAUA yearly summit. So thanks to the folks here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. Okay, so what I really want to talk about is why are we here? Right, there's that logic again, Lynn. Right, it's one thing to say we're here, but why are we here? What are our reasons? Well, we are here to celebrate a new beginning for liberal religion and all that we have accomplished in such a short time. We're here to hasten and bolster our liberal religious community by building and deepening our friendships and our connections. We're here to prove to each other that we are not alone and that our congregations and our fellowships remain free and autonomous. Yet they are not alone in our common hope and our commitment and our determination to make our world a better and a much more just place for all people, for our fellow creatures, and for our mother, the earth itself. We are here to promote and uphold our perennial liberal religious values and principles by letting the world know that they are not dead. They cannot be removed with a vote or edited out of existence. And that we have not abandoned our commitment to religious freedom and to the inherent worth and dignity of every person and all peoples. We are here to make history, just as Unitarians and Universalists have done throughout history. We are here to prove that despite attempts to demonize and dehumanize and dismiss us, that we are still standing, still vibrant, still filled with the joy of life and a positive purpose. We are here to roll up our sleeves and get to work, helping to make human society more just and more brave and more compassionate and tolerant toward one another. Because that's our job, that's who we are, and that's what the world needs right now. So thank you all for joining me here at this historic first summit of the North American Unitarian Association. Thank you all for all you have had to endure to get to this place and to bring you to this place. Thank you for standing with me and giving me strength when I felt like the whole world was being pulled right out from under me. Thank you for being here for each other. Look around. Thank you for being here for each other. And thank you for your continued commitment to our historic and hopeful liberal religious faith. Thank you for all that we have already accomplished, and thank you for all the good things that I know we will continue to accomplish tomorrow and during our many years to come. Thank you all for being here.